Well, welcome to Cranberry. This is Alan, your host, and today we're going to have the fantastic homemade bread Choom. And Choomer is all about doing things that you would like to do and would like some help maybe from others to do it yourself. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you about making some homemade bread that is to die for. Okay, so first off, the formula for making bread and to determine your water temperature is to get the ambient temperature, the temperature of the air. And right now in my kitchen, it is approximately 74 degrees. Okay, my flour temperature is probably pretty close to the same. Okay, yep. We're going to call it 73. So 73 and 74 makes 147. And we add, theoretically, 30 to that to account for the friction factor in mixing. So that would make it 177. Now the theory is, or the formula is, you take 177 from 240, and that should determine your water temperature. Well now, if I did that, if I took 177 from 240, okay, that's going to give me 63 as my water temperature. And I can tell you from experience that with this mixer, the good old KitchenAid mixer, it doesn't work. The friction factor is much higher. So I actually have to get my water down to about 54 degrees. Now, I've already got my water, okay, and I've actually put a little bit of crushed ice in it. And right now, my water, going down quick. Okay, my water is actually below 50. It's hitting at about 43 degrees. Okay, I can tell you that that will produce dough for me that is going to be between 72 and 78 degrees when it's done mixing. And that is the temperature, the ideal temperature that you want your dough to be at when it's done mixing. So, having said that, let's get on with it here. First of all, we're going to put in 3 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour mixed with wheat bran. So that's my particular mix. Why do I put wheat bran? Well, it gives me some fiber, and it just makes the bread taste a little bit better to me. But you know, you may not like it. You don't have to put it in there. That's the nature of this whole thing. Alright, so there's 3 cups of flour. Next, we're going to add some dry yeast. Now, I buy it in the bottle. This little jar of dry yeast is equal to roughly 16 of the individual packets. It's just under $5, $4.50, somewhere around there. If you take 16 packets, and you might remember they come in the little packets of 3, those run about $1.96 or some outrageous figure. So you figure up real quick, it's very cost effective to get the jar. Now, you know what? If you don't do a lot of baking, you may not want to have a jar of this on hand, but I'll tell you what, I've had jars of this in the refrigerator for years, a year, and it's still good. That's the whole nature of dry yeast. It lasts. Now, we're going to use 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast in this. There's 1, and there's 2, and we've got a 1/4 teaspoon right here we're going to put in there, and there we go. Now, I have to admit, they weren't necessarily level, but they were not heaping teaspoons. So 2 1/4 teaspoons of dried yeast. Now we're going to put a teaspoon of salt. I use sea salt. You might want to use salt. That's a joke. You might want to use your own iodized salt, whatever you care to use, but I like to use sea salt. I feel like I'm getting better salt. And, you know, it's natural. Nothing added to it. Not homogenized or whatever. Okay, so we've got salt, yeast, and flour, folks. That's it. Now, the only other things I'm going to add in there, and let me grab them real quick. The only other things I'm going to add in there are some cranberries. These are craisins, ocean spray, original sweetened dried cranberries, and some good old Diamond California walnuts. Now, if you thought this was going to be just ordinary bread, well, there you go. Now I'm going to take my wire whisk before I do anything else and just blend in the salt, the yeast, and the flour to get it spread out in there real good. And now we're going to add the water. And I'm going to use right at 1 1/3 cups of water. So first off, we'll fill up the 1 cup measure. And there we go. Dump that in there. Now I'm going to add up to 1/3. This is the 1/3 cup measured cup. And I'll add up to 1/3 additional water, but I'm not going to put it all in there at once, and I'll tell you why. Put about half of that. As this mixes, there's a tendency for some of the flour to stay in the bottom of the bowl and not get in the initial ball. So I reserve a little bit of that water so that it will moisten that flour in the bottom, and the dough ball will take that up and add it in and mix it in better. It's just to make sure we get some good mixing time. So, here we go. And as we go along, I'll also show you what it looks like as this mixes, so you get an idea of how it might look in your mixer. You may have a different mixer. Not everybody has a KitchenAid, but they are awesome. This particular mixer is 25 years old, and I tell you what, it's made a lot of dough. I would hesitate to guess how many batches of bread, donut dough, cinnamon roll dough. This mixer can do the job. So this is going to mix for a total of 15 minutes. Right now it's on a slow speed to just blend the ingredients all together. And as it mixes up there a little bit, why, I'll be sure and get the camera over here so you can see it. So we'll let this mix. Come on, where's my time? Okay, well now you can see, actually it has taken all the flour up down there, and I still got a little bit of water in reserve, so I may not need to add in that additional water. My flour may not have been quite as abundant as it is sometimes, and that can happen. But you see how it's all wrapped around the dough hook there? That's exactly the way that you want it to be. Now I'm going to increase the speed just a little bit. And that's going to mix now. It's got another 13 minutes to go.